This news program is proudly brought to you by
Smart Start Breakfast Biscuits
and Now Biscuits.
National government gives 200,000 kina to programs for people with special needs. Prime Minister Marape clears air on shoot to kill headline. And PNG and Australian Defence Forces continue partnership. Good evening, you're watching National EMTV News. I'm Grace Papiali. Thank you for joining us. The Papua New Guinea Defence Force has officially closed the 2022 operational year with a parade at Murray Barracks in Port Moresby. The Chief of PNG Defence Force, Major General Mark Goina, highlighted the challenges and achievements for the Defence Force in 2022 and also stressed on the plans for 2023.
Professional development and training.
The Chief of PNG Defence Force, Major General Mark Goina, said PNCDF is tasked by the government to carry out defence of Papua New Guinea, civil emergency assistance and nation building. Major General Goina said the aim of the PNCDF is to have a skilled, resilient and sustainable workforce able to deliver defence outputs. He said for this to happen, they have to get the basics right. They must be well paid, must have the right clothing and equipment, and must have healthy diet, a suitable living with training and working accommodation. His immediate focus is on single service personnel and family accommodation. He said they are working on a plan for new and refurbishments of existing buildings, starting in Wewak and Manus. Over the next 3 years, they will focus on developing the Goldie Training Depot and the relocation and expansion of the depot facilities. Major General Goina said they are able to undertake professional development training to engage in exercises and activities with their international partners.
The estimated input of 10 million to 13 million Australian dollars per annum, plus additional to your one-off acquisition and projects, including the significant support to the delivery of the national elections, is truly appreciated. This year alone, we have seen the delivery of the landing craft every HMP district closer, plus 54 vehicles, Toyota Land Cruisers of various configurations to support national elections 2022.
He said due to the COVID-19 pandemic, they have faced some challenges, but they also achieved a lot in 2022. In terms of policy development, he has been working with a team from UPNG, which will set the conditions for the delivery of the 2022 to 2026 interim. They are looking forward to releasing this early 2023, along with the strategic defense policy and their strategic capability plan. He acknowledged and farewelled the PNCDF Deputy Chief of Staff for his time and effort in PNCDF.
I want to acknowledge and say farewell to one of my staff officers within the PNCDF, Colonel Tim Marston, my Deputy Chief of Staff.
He said they have continued to maintain border presence, both on land and maritime borders, and they will continue to maintain their presence in the highlands, as it is their responsibility to assist the police maintain good order, peace and security. Esther Gane, National EMTV News.
The Papua New Guinea Defence will be running basic recruit courses commencing next year. This was announced on Wednesday by the commanding officer of Goldie River Training Depot, Lieutenant Colonel Eddie Etato, during the opening of training facilities for the Warrior Wing and the Long Range Reconnaissance Unit.
The commanding officer of Goldie River Training Depot, Lieutenant Colonel Eddie Etato, said these basic recruit courses will begin early next year.
We have focus for training next year, so our training focus will be a bit busy next year. There will be a lot of trainings and a lot of courses that will be run next year, including basic recruit courses as well.
Lieutenant Colonel Etato said the Chief of Defence Force, Major General Mark Goina, has instructed the Hercules PNG Defense Force to begin training as of next year. These basic recruit trainings will be divided into two parts, the first being a 3-month basic recruitment course, then onto a more detailed 6-month course for the soldiers. For this year, not much work and trainings have been conducted due to various reasons, as explained by Lieutenant Colonel Eddie Etato.
First being COVID-19. I came in the beginning of the year where COVID-19 was slowing down, so it has affected some of our instructors here, so we were not really involved in a lot of training activities. Second being the national elections. Our soldiers here at Goldie were also deployed on operations during the national elections, so we did not run any training and in the first half of the year, but during the second half of the year we did run some trainings, some in Ley, some in Wuwek, and other 2 courses were run here at Goldie. But during the times that we were not running any trainings, we were busy with infrastructure development.
The Goldie River Training Depot has recently renovated and refurbished their training facilities, supported and funded by their counterparts, the Australian Defence Force. Lindy Suharupa, National EMTV News.
The newly renovated Warrior Wing and Long Range Reconnaissance Unit at the Goldie River Training Depot were opened by the PNG Defence Force and Australian Defence Force recently. The renovations and the infrastructures were done by the Australian Defence Force through the partnership that they have.
Some of the work that have been done are servicing of the PNGDF vehicles, building of new queue, renovation of fire service station, and the shooting range has also been renovated for training purposes. The infrastructure work cost about 7 million kina. Deputy Chief of Defence Force Commodore Philip Polewara says PNG and Australia has been working collaboratively.
Australia, Papua New Guinea, if what we are doing, and it's different from the past. Today is we request to them, this is where we want the assistance or where the support is, and they come in like before. It's different from what we've been doing, the way of doing business in the past. They come in to help us where the need is and where we tell them, oh, we want you to help in this area. So you can see, maintaining a special force is not that cheap.
That will protect you from impacts, falls and a machete.
Warrant Class 1 Officer Bob Reed highlighted some of the work they have been doing to create better infrastructure for the PNGDF.
As well as what you saw here, which was the Long Range Reconnaissance Unit infrastructure, mainly being their offices, their troop standby rooms, their transport shed and their queue store. We're also working on the officers' mess, the commanding officers' accommodation, and Exercise Puk was just here working on wider things around Goldie River. So Australia and DCP really have made a concerted effort to help right at the base level at recruiting, at the heart of growing the PNG Defence Force.
Commanding Officer for Goldie Barracks, Lieutenant Colonel Eddie Etato says since there was no training at the Goldie Barracks this year, they were busy with the infrastructural development together with their counterparts from the Australian Defence Force.
Most of the infrastructure development that is taking place at Goldie is through our partners from Australian Defence Force, through DCP as well. They have been renovating most of our classrooms, our office blocks, some of our accommodations, and some of the facilities that we just went through are part of the infrastructure developments that were taking place during the period that we were not involved in training.
Samantha Solomon, National EMTV News.
The national government has donated 200,000 kina to the Cheshire Homes at Hohola in Port Moresby to run programs for persons with special needs. Secretary for the Prime Minister's Department and the National Executive Council, Ivan Pomaleu, presented the check to the Board of Cheshire Homes on Thursday this week.
Let me firstly acknowledge
Secretary Ivan Pomaleu, when presenting the check, said people with special needs are equal and able-bodied persons. The Secretary alluded that the Cheshire Homes is an organization that needs attention in our society today as it cares for persons with special needs. There may be families with a child or person with special needs too in their homes and may not have the ability to care for their needs. Hence, the work of Cheshire Homes must be valued. Secretary Pomaleu admitted that at present, our communities and society have no required adjustment to build facilities to cater for their needs and have policies and services that is inclusive, that includes those with special needs. He added that such facilities would come in the near future. However, it will take time. Mr. Pomaleu assured everyone who gathered there that during his time as secretary, he will ensure that some changes are made. In handing over the cheque, Pomaleu clarified that this is the government's contribution from the Community and Social Services Fund, controlled by the National Gaming and Control Board. Kevin Buckby, a board member of Cheshire Homes, thanked the government for the support. Cheshire Homes relies on continued donations, and the government's support is a relief. This will further help the organization to support their programs next year. The Cheshire Homes and Disability Services PNG is an NGO and charitable organization that offers wide range of services to persons with special needs. Lindy Suharupa, National EMTV News.
Prime Minister James Marape says today's headline, "Shoot to Kill," on one of the dailies attributed to him has been taken out of context. He said this has been misinterpreted by many people to mean he had issued orders for police and soldiers to shoot to kill, and clarified what the statement means in a press statement released this afternoon.
Today's headline on one of the dailies has caused a mixed reaction from the public. Prime Minister James Marape, in a press statement today, clarified that police and soldiers on duty in high-risk areas are on many occasions faced with life-threatening situation, and that in such extreme situation, when they are faced with something that is life-threatening, they have to defend themselves, which is the bottom line of his statement. Marape said police and soldiers on many occasions have been shot and killed in high-risk areas, with the perpetrators getting away. He said in such dangerous situations, they have a right to defend themselves as a last resort, which is what he was referring to. This statement was made following the Prime Minister's announcement to mount a new call-out extension for military for a year in Hela, Enga and Southern Islands provinces, with a greater role to be given to military, but to report to police provincial commanders with engagement roles to shoot to kill in high-risk situations. Sharon Engnui, National EMTV News.
National EMTV News continues after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to National EMTV News. Executive Director for the Institute of National Affairs, Paul Barker, said the government needs to fully exercise its regulatory powers and expand the economy to cut down on borrowing. Barker made this statement following the recent criticism on the government borrowing from other countries.
With the recent handing down of the 2023 budget, despite being described as one of PNG's historical budget, Barker said proper planning and monitoring is important for effective service delivery.
Then, with its limited resources, it needs to focus them very carefully, and particularly to focus on managing money so that it's accountable, so that it's not wasted. We know there's a lot of waste at the district level and at other levels. They say, you know, they've revised the procurement procedures this year to improve them. But yeah, we need to have close monitoring, both by government institutions, but also by civil society.
He said government needs to know the exact population of the country by deriving the population data from each province. Barker highlighted that government needs to work on restraining corruptions and must allow accountability and transparency so there can be enough money to fund for goods and services around the country.
It needs to expand the economy with an expanded economy, then there's more revenue that it can collect. It can then use that revenue to provide progressively improved goods and services, but it hasn't got enough money, even if it's got more revenue, to waste on frivolous things, low priority things, wasteful things.
He said the budget is tight and the government must focus on expanding the economy in order to have extra revenue and avoid borrowing. Baka said the government needs to exercise its regulatory powers to encourage competition and community service obligations by companies investing in our country. He added that the government needs good advice on how and where to spend its money.
Get the best advice on what the best options are and what the most affordable options are, where government should spend its money, because it has a limited amount of money and it has a lot of demand for that money.
Sharon Engnui, National EMTV News.
The Minister for International Trade and Investment, Richard Maru, Japan Development Institute Chairman Dr. Shoichi Kobayashi, and the Special Economic Zone delegation have finally visited Karamui District in Simbu Province yesterday. A total of 2.8 million kina was allocated for the Karamui SEZ agenda, of which 1.3 million kina check was handed to Minister Maru from Vice Minister Planning and member for Chuave Jason Nomane to start the project. Karamui is located in the Salt Nomane Karamui district in the southernmost part of Simbu province, bordering Gulf, Southern Highlands and Eastern Highlands provinces. An LLG with a landmass twice of that of Simbu province, with fertile soil and an abundance of export-grade produce, including cocoa, vanilla and coffee. After 47 years, Karamui has been selected as a special economic zone under the leadership of Minister for International Trade and Investment Richard Maru through the policy of the Marape Rosso government. Upon his arrival in Karamui, Minister for International Trade and Investment Richard Maru gave his statement to the people.
You cannot be an economic zone without roads to give access to market. Governor, you thinking good now? After this meeting, we go back 100 million money of planning, give him 1.3 million. I will get one of the best consulting firms in the world to come. Now assessing viability of the place. Now also talk about organize something we need to meet him to turn it into an economic zone.
Dr. Shoichi Kobayashi, who was thrilled to visit the place, gave his address.
Creating SEZ automatically not attract investors. But we need to work, you have to work together with the government and the private sector together. We call the private and public partnership PPP scheme. And I think we have to welcome the investor to the Karamuri and take care of them, and then can able to provide you the production and also the employment. Employment is most important for the young people.
Member for Chuave, Jason Nomane, urged the people to adhere and comply with the development agendas which will roll out soon.
Work beliau simple lo harem to, lo respect. Now lo make him something stretch so. All come something yang bago harap. Time will kiram na talk make him ground na you minute lo. Make him also na push him. You talk one bell, make him go. Tunguna stop, go, now me stop here. Ground him, not changing one plus something. Give him go inside, company come soon, you make a
The Special Economic Zone agenda in Karamui will see an increase in the production of crops like cocoa, vanilla and coffee and bring in socio-economic development to Simbu province. With the establishment of infrastructure in place and investments of both the private and public sectors, this will significantly add change in the 5 million kina per annum internal revenue of the province. This project is supported by Chimbu MPs, the Chimbu Governor Noah Cool and Chuave MP James Nomane, who led the team to Karamui and later back to Kundiawa. Meanwhile, Minister for International Trade and Investment Richard Maru met with the leaders, ward members and landowners of the proposed Labu Special Economic Zone in the Morobe province earlier this week. It was led by the CEO, Mr. Tobias Kulang. Talks to start an industrial park that will take up almost 9,000 hectares of land is taking place in Morobe province. Two big investors, PNG Ports Corporation and Kumul Petroleum Holdings Limited, are the lead investors in the proposed special economic zone. The only concern raised was land ownership issues, which is halting the development of the project. Minister Maru advised them to sort out the landowner issues and secure land titles. This will allow serious work to progress, which is the Wharf and Industrial Park. Chairman of Japan Development Institute, Dr. Shoichi Kobayashi, spoke in the meeting that special economic zones like the proposed Labu Special Economic Zone have proved to have worked and developed to a standard that attracted investors. Minister Maru requested Dr. Kobayashi to recommend some similar industrial parks around the world that has a wharf and an industrial park similar to the Labu proposal. This will allow the leaders and management of the proposed Labu Special Economic Zone and the Morobe provincial government to visit those projects to learn from their successes and failures before they finalize their business concept and commit financial resources. Furthermore, Maru stated that any detailed feasibility studies must include the NADZAP International Airport facilities to take tuna from Leh and Medang directly to Japan on daily flights if there's possibility to collect enough volumes of tuna for the Japanese market. He said this is similar to Thailand and Biak in Indonesia. Minister Maru encouraged the Morobe provincial government to become an equity partner in this project, with the reason that over 50,000 revenue employments will be created, where the province would earn millions of kina in new GST income on a long-term continuous basis. The Education Minister Jimmy Ugoro apologized to the students for the error that was made in the grade 12 geography examination paper. He appealed to the people who are preparing the exam papers to check to ensure the same mistake is not repeated in the future.
I would like to, on your behalf, apologize to those students. We have already fixed the geography exam and now we are launching the results. But for the records, we apologize and we will not repeat the same mistake again. Those of us who are in charge of examinations, please check and balance every document that goes out to print. And so we don't embarrass ourselves and our system. I apologize to our department, our secretary and staff for unnecessary inconvenience caused by our landlords locking our office. I think it's 6 weeks now. On the Prime Minister's behalf, I apologize. It is the landlord's doing, even though we have paid some money.
And now looking at the Nest Fund market report, the kina closed unchanged at $0.2840 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.2765 $0.4094 Australian dollars, 0.2527 euro, 37.67 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold is trading higher, coffee closed higher, cocoa closed lower, copper closed lower, palm oil closed lower, crude oil is trading lower, copper closed higher. On the stock market, the Dow Jones closed lower, the ASX 200 is trading lower, the All Ordinaries is trading lower. National EMTV News continues after the break with more stories. Stay with us. Welcome back to National EMTV News. The new Waste Management Facility and Infectious Diseases Inpatient Unit at the Engau Memorial Provincial Hospital is now open. The facilities are part of the new infrastructure built under the hospital's redevelopment, supported by the Papua New Guinea-Australia Partnership.
The new waste management facility will lift the standard of operations and enable a safer and more hygienic process for waste removal and processing. Waste Management Facility Officer in charge, Po Sopial, said the new upgraded facility was one of the essential components of the hospital and is also thankful for the health and safety training provided to its team. Hospital Manager Consilia Hamol thanked the Government of Australia and PNG for funding the redevelopment and strongly urged staff to take ownership. The Australian High Commission representative Alice Newton expressed her appreciation to all who worked on the project, in particular the behind-the-scenes work of the hospital. A blessing ceremony was held recently to mark the opening of the new facility, witnessed by representatives from the Morobe Provincial Health Authority, hospital staffs and the Australian High Commission and the project delivery team. Sharon Ingnui, National EMTV News.
Number One Super Limited has partnered with the Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary this year to roll out NSL's free financial literacy training to over 6,000 officers and staff of the RPNGC across the country. This year, NSL has trained 218 RPNGC officers and staffs from Port Moresby and Buka.
Chief Executive Officer Mr. Paul Seya commended the RPNGC for prioritizing the well-being of their workforce by partnering with NSL to deliver this valuable training. He said the fund is proud that the RPNGC has taken the initiative to empower their staff with this training, allowing them to develop useful financial management skills which they can utilize in their daily lives to build a better future for themselves and their families. RPNGC Acting Assistant Commissioner Mr. Samson Siguyaru welcomed the rollout of the program and remarked that this was the first time an organization has partnered with the Constabulary to deliver a comprehensive financial literacy training for all RPNGC employees. Sharon Ingnui, National EMTV News.
The official closing of the 20 days human rights activism campaign carried out by the East Sepik provincial government through its community development sector and their partnership with NGOs and stakeholders in the province was done earlier this week at the Somaria Stadium in Wewak, East Sepik province.
The 20 days activism campaign ended 3 days ago with representatives from participating NGOs presenting short speeches and youth taking part in showcasing drama and dance to mark the end of the 20 days of activism. Among the guest speakers was Noel Sirius, PWD spokesman, who challenges the East Sepik provincial government to represent the minority and be vocal on tabling the long overdue national disability policy. Sirius says, as an educated and working-class PWD, he is fortunate to make ends meet for himself and his family, but for the unfortunate ones like him. They need a functional society that has a system in place that's inclusive of PWDs so that they too can have equal rights to access basic services. Esther Gane, National EMTV News.
Moving to overseas news now, and Fijian opposition parties have called for a full recount of the vote for this week's election after a glitch in the results publishing system.
Initially, after the Fijian Elections Office reported a glitch in the system it used to publish results online. So prior to the glitch, the People's Alliance Party, one of the main opposition parties in Fiji, led by Sitiveni Rabuka, was in the lead. But once that fault was reported and then results were re-uploaded, the incumbent ruling party, Fiji First, had slightly nudged ahead. And that's prompted the four opposition parties in Fiji to call for a full recount of the vote, and that's because Mr Rambuka says that the results published after the glitch don't seem to match up with results that were being tallied by their party observers during the provisional counting stage at polling booths across the country. And so the opposition parties have announced their intention to file a complaint with the Fijian Elections Office. They're also saying that they'll petition the President of Fiji over the matter, and they say if their concerns are ignored, they may even refuse to take their seats in Parliament, even if they're elected. Well, it's safe to say that this is playing into some existing anxieties in Fiji, and that is largely because Mr Rambuka yesterday flagged his intention to ask the commander of the Fijian military to intervene if he sees necessary to, in his words, uphold the constitution. Now, that raises concerns for many people here in Fiji, largely because of Mr Rambuka's past. He's known for having instigated 2 military coups in 1987, and there's been a lot of concern about the prospect of another coup. Mr Rambuka shut down that suggestion yesterday, saying that there'll be no coup, and he did call for peace, but that the citizens here in Fiji are still concerned. They've taken to social media sort of expressing anxieties over this. In the meantime, the Fijian Elections Office is continuing with the vote count despite that call to cease counting. They say they haven't received an official complaint from the opposition parties yet, so they'll continue with counting, and we're expected to see a final result on Sunday.
National MTV News continues after the break with Trukai Sport. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. The basketball player Christian Pang made an open invite to all the athletes residing in Port Moresby to attend a basketball forum tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Tarama Aquatic Center. He said this forum is free of charge, and as a basketball player, he came up with this initiative to give back to the communities to help and equip the young athletes in the country with basic basketball skills.
So tomorrow I'm running a basketball camp out at Tarama Aquatic Centre on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's just a way to give back to the community and help out PNG basketball. One of my goals is to really grow the game in Papua New Guinea and just give back to the community that raised me. So any athlete of all ages, we'll split them into age groups. So we'll have some beginners and all the way up to people trying out for national teams and that sort of thing. My aim is just to give as much knowledge as I can and inspire as many athletes as I can to make it to the next level. So I'm hoping to run some skills stuff, some basketball skills stuff, have a chat to some of the athletes about ways to get better and to take their game to the next level. And yeah, just hoping to inspire a few athletes to to really work hard in the game of basketball and see how far they can get and how good they can become.
A task force under the guidance of the Solomon Islands Government Services Integration Committee has been formed for the official launch of the Safe and Green Games initiative in February as part of the upcoming 2023 Pacific Games preparations. The GSIC met for the first time last week to discuss the plan of the launch. This action plan focuses on environmentalism for the Games. Another meeting is planned for next week, according to GSIC Chair and Planning and Task Force Committee Chair Bernard Batanisia. The Pacific Games is scheduled to take place from 19th of November to the 2nd of December 2023. Trukai Sports continues after the break. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. Moving to overseas news now. In basketball, Melbourne has defeated rival the Southeast Phoenix 92-76.
Put on a show, scoring 33 points to help United secure the vital win and keep its finals hopes alive. And tonight's clash between the Perth Wildcats and New Zealand Breakers has been postponed because several Breakers players have tested positive to COVID. Isolation rules in New Zealand mean the club didn't have enough players to travel to Perth.
Melbourne has extended its contract to host the Australian Formula One Grand Prix by 2 years.
Four season-opening races are guaranteed for the duration of the new deal. Bahrain will host the first race next year, and Saudi Arabia has taken the opener in 2024 from Australia in a late change due to a scheduling conflict with Ramadan. Melbourne's due to hold the 2025 launch event under the original 10-year agreement signed earlier this year. And Melbourne Grand Prix boss Andrew Westacott has made the surprise announcement he's leaving the role after next year's race.
Well, I started life at the corporation in 2006, and to have the hosting rights here at Albert Park, where I am in pit lane right now, until 2037, I think it was probably a long ask to think that I was going to be there for, 31 years, but 15 years at the corporation, and leaving on a high with a great team in place to deliver this year's event.
And that ends Trukai Sports. The Money Plus weather report for the next 24 hours is next. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by Money Plus. With you always.
Now we take a look at the Money Plus weather forecast for the next 24 hours. In the southern region, Port Moresby City, partly cloudy with possible patchy rain. Daru, possible brief showers. Kerama, partly cloudy with possible patchy rain. Alatau, brief showers with southwest to north. Popondetta, partly cloudy with patchy rain.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by Money Plus. With you always.
And that wraps up the news, sports and weather for Friday the 16th of December 2022. From all of us here, pleasant viewing. Bye for now.
This news program was proudly brought to you by
Smart Start Breakfast Biscuits
and Gold Nuggets.